Those that are bilingual, what have you heard from others that don't realize you can understand them? Very innocent comment towards my dad, but regardless they clearly didn't think I could understand them. I once overheard some middle-aged guys say that my dad looks like the oldest kid from the Brady Bunch if he grew up in Spanish. My dad was down the aisle getting something, and I was manning the cart and they were semi-near me. I just start laughing because my mom had a crush on Greg from the Brady Bunch as a kid, so it was perfect. Even my dad's name is Greg. No one was offended, but the guys did look scared for a minute. I'm ethnically Chinese, but grew up learning German. I was in Germany for student exchange and attended a dorm party one night. Two German guys at the party started flirting with me and openly discussed who would be able to sleep with me that night. Played dumb and rejected both their advances. A week later at another party I conversed with other friends in fluent German in front of them. Their expressions were priceless. I'm half English and half French. When I was 19 I used to run a football class for a summer school in my hometown in England. My dad was the modern language teacher of the private school, which led me to be pretty knowledgeable about how things worked. When walking through the street at the end of school term some French exchange students asked me for a cigarette. I don't smoke, so I told them as much, and I carried on. I got 5 meters down the street before one said, "Hey, mercy fills depute. This means oh thanks son of a bitch." I turned back and asked them to repeat themselves. They apologized and were really surprised and also extremely embarrassed. Not nearly as shocked as when they turned up to gym class for their first summer class and I was their teacher. Korean family visited university I went to. They were lost and needed help. They don't speak English. As I was passing them, "Dad, he looks Korean. Let us ask him." Mom and daughter, he is Chinese. Let us not ask him. 10 minutes later, I met up with my friend and was walking toward dining plaza. They saw my friend and asked her, "Where is this and that?" My friend, "Sorry I am not sure," turns to me and asked, "Hey, do you know?" I ended up telling them in Korean where to go and watch their shocked faces as they didn't think I was Korean. For info, I do kind of look like Chinese. Chinese families always ask me questions at school, so I had to learn, "Sorry I am not Chinese. I don't know how to speak Chinese. I'm Korean and Mandarin." I took a youth group to Six Flags. We had extra tickets from a couple of no-shows, so I decided to scout them. A Korean family walked up and I made my pitch. They conferred together in Korean. I'm a white guy, but I lived in rural Korea for a year and bargained with a lot of shopkeepers, so I knew their counteroffer and what they were willing to pay before they announced it in English. In China, some friends and I were negotiating for some things at a market. My Nordic poster child friend, 6' and blonde, speaks fluent Mandarin. We were talking in English to each other because I had only taken a couple months of classes at that point. We were going back and forth on prices and discounts if we bought multiple things. Finally one of the shop workers asked their boss, in Mandarin, how low he could go. The boss answered that he would accept $2 per item at the very minimum. My friend immediately jumped in Mandarin, and said, "We'll take 5 of them for $10. Both the shop worker and his boss were shocked, but then laughed about it and sold to us at that price and conversed with my friend a little bit, complimenting his language skills and negotiation. In high school I spoke Spanish fairly well. It was not common for that time and for my area. A family was buying groceries, and as I was ringing up the items the father said he has not seen the stuff on the bottom, don't get it. I rang up what was on the belt and sat there. After a few moments I asked about the stuff on the bottom. They would not look at me for the next 2 minutes or so of the transaction. I'm half Korean and can understand fluent Korean and can only respond in simple Korean or I just respond in English. But I was eating by myself in a Korean restaurant and the servers were speaking Korean, literally shit talking me. I just looked up at them as soon as they were talking among themselves about me, and they noticed and just dispersed/went separate ways. I've talked to other half Korean folks I know, and we've all talked about similar experiences of full Korean folks talking crap, all the while them not realizing we understand what they're saying. It's embarrassing. Edit. I didn't think this was going to blow up. I in no way am saying that all full Koreans are racist or treat half Koreans like crap or anything. I have been told that I look more white than Korean. I have blue hair, some nostril piercings, and I don't remember what I wore that day, but that's what they were talking about. They were talking about my appearance. Unfortunately, this was just a recent example. I used to hear more comments when I was younger. I think people are more open-minded now. Interracial couples weren't as accepting back then, like it is now. But this was purely people not realizing I can understand them when they are speaking their native tongue. I'm from Hungary and I lived in Germany for a few years as an au pair. I was honestly surprised how many times I heard random Hungarians. They never said anything offensive or rude about others, just swore a lot, really loudly. Always made my day when I heard a random frick in my native language in Aldi. I almost never swear in English, a sad lack of variety, but when my friend visited after 6 months and I could finally talk with someone from home, I did the exact same thing. Maybe it's a cultural thing. Nothing beats dropping "bazd casually in public knowing that you can get away with it because none understands you. Except when they do. That makes for some hilarious situations. Was casually strolling across campus the other day, crossing the lawn to save time, as an older guy started shouting from an office window in German, "Can't you read? The sign says, don't step on the lawn." And I was like, equally as loud, "Zarek a few that I crap on your lawn." To which he replied cheerfully in Hungarian, "Come up here and be my guest for a cup of coffee then." Used to teach in Korea in a fairly small town. Some kids I taught told me about their grandma. She saw a black man at the train station and muttered at him, in Korean, to go wash his skin. She, of course, assumed there was no way he spoke Korean, but he immediately answered back, in Korean, "Don't hate, grandmother." She was so shocked and embarrassed she just stood up and left the station. Took the afternoon train instead. Oh, this reminds me of a story. I worked in a grocery store for a few years, and one of our cashiers was from Nigeria. We'll call him John. He had a very thick accent and was very dark-skinned. One day a mom came through his line with her 8-year-old son. The kid kept looking at John and then back to his mom, very confused. Eventually the kid just blurted out, very loudly, "Mr. Y, is your skin so black? Did you get burned?" John busts out laughing, leans over the counter and whispers, "You know why it's so black? It's because I ate too much chocolate when I was little." Hard to describe, but I thought it was adorable. I was at a weekend retreat for people studying sign language. It was held at a residential school for the deaf and the children were away at home, but a few teenagers were hanging around. A couple of the teen boys were trying to flirt with a girl. I wasn't paying close attention, and I'm not fluent anyway, but I could tell one boy was asking the other boy to talk to the girl for him, probably because he was too shy to talk to her himself. Finally I oversaw the boy ask her, "What is your weight?" The girl looked confused and a little disgusted. He repeated the question. The first boy slapped the second boy's hands away and emphatically signed, "What is your name?" The girl was happy enough to answer that, and I was glad none of them could hear me laugh out loud. I was working downtown, in the US, in a part of the city that is mainly tourists, and waited on a Chinese family one day. The restaurant is the equivalent of a sit-down chain like Olive Garden. I greeted them in English, and they responded in English, so I figured that this would be the best method of communication, since they did not ask if I spoke Cantonese. Once I moved on to my next table, I heard the mother tell the father that it is such a shame that my parents worked so hard for me to not speak Cantonese and work at a restaurant. I went through the whole meal speaking in English, and at the end as I was handing them the bill, I said in Cantonese that it was a pleasure serving you, and I hope you come again soon. The mother's face dropped, and she thanked me profusely and left a decent tip. I might speak English well, but I also know how to work the Chinese guild. I had a buddy who grew up in HK and spoke fluent Cantonese. This was a large Sikh guy, turban, beard and all, at a noodle joint here in Canada, and he leaned in at one point to me and said that the other table filled with Chinese guys were talking crap about us. Later on, he went to the bathroom, came back and leaned over their table saying he understood everything. The guys went beet red and profusely apologized, and shortly thereafter left. My friend said nothing more, and we finished our meal. We asked for the bill to learn that it has been taken care of by those guys.